This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan.
And I'm Anthony Germain. MHA Eddie Joyce speaks out tonight in the wake of harassment reports released in the House of Assembly.
Yeah, and he says he doesn't want to be a part of a Liberal caucus that includes one of his accusers, Sherry Gambin-Walsh.
Gambin-Walsh is one of 3 MHAs who filed complaints against him. And the commissioner found that he breached the MHA's code of conduct when he pressured her to hire a friend of his.
Joyce gave me his first interview since all the reports have come out.
I will never sit in a cabinet or caucus with Sherry Gambin-Walsh. Just on principle alone and just for protection of me and my family, I would never sit in a caucus. And the Premier, I'm not putting any pressure on the Premier because the Premier makes a decision. But I feel confident that when I get this whole story out, I feel confident that Eddie Joyce will be vindicated.
Now, his fate lies in the hands of the House of Assembly. He says he's willing to accept whatever the House decides, and there was a lot more you're going to want to see from that interview. It's coming up in 25 minutes on Here and Now.
Well, people on all sides of the House of Assembly, the harassment scandal, of course, taking a big part of the time, and a lot of them taking issue with the very investigation that unleashed this process. And today, the man behind all the reports, Bruce Chalk, he held a briefing with journalists to explain just what went into all of his investigations. Here Now's Katie Breen was there for that. So, Katie, what did the commissioner have to say about his work?
Well, he said he was once told if everyone's upset by your work, maybe you've done something right. His reports mostly cleared the accused of any wrongdoing, and he said today exactly how he came to those conclusions.
The commissioner didn't have time for an on-camera interview today, but in the briefing, he explained that workplace investigation firm Rubin Tomlinson did the work. They did the interviews, and they wrote a report. Chalk said he copied and pasted a lot of the firm's report into his own. He didn't use everything verbatim because he said he wanted to keep names out of it.
I still maintain I would have preferred an independent process, completely independent of anyone who in any way, shape or form could be influenced by government.
Chalk said the problem with that is that he, in his position, is the only one who has the authority to recommend punishment for MHAs. Rubin Tomlinson or any other independent firm couldn't do that.
Right now, if we want a complete independent review, so we need to figure out what is it that would work best. Would that take it out of the public sphere, for instance? Is it being so public that is causing the concern?
Just over an hour ago, the House voted to bring in the commissioner and the firm so that politicians can ask them questions on the record. Then it's the debates, 5 of them, 1 for each report.
This could potentially be short, potentially be long. I've learned in my time here that to never think you know how something's going to go, because it will likely go the other way.
The Premier has the power to reject the Commissioner's findings. The reports that mostly cleared Kirby and Joyce of wrongdoing mightn't mean anything. Ball says he'll be taking everything into consideration, the reports and the debate, before making his decision.
The House of Assembly wasn't supposed to reopen for its regular fall sitting for another week and a half. But now, with all of this happening and how much there's left to deal with, the Premier says the House is officially back in session. Reporting live for Here Now, I'm Katie Breen in the newsroom.
Now, as Dale Kirby's fate hangs in the balance in the House, members voted overwhelmingly today to review Kirby's decision to leak harassment reports to the media last week. The motion to further review Kirby's actions passed by a vote of 35-2. Many in the House have argued that Kirby breached his privilege by releasing the reports before they were tabled in the House. Opposition leader Ches Crosby says doing that was an indignity to the complainants. But Kirby maintains he did nothing wrong, asking how what he did is any different from what MHA Colin Holloway did back in August.
The lawyers representing me and the Commissioner of Legislative Standards agreed that we were not bound by confidentiality. When I stood yesterday as well, and I believe I'm entitled to make this point, I pointed out that my actions were no different than the member for Terra Nova who released 2 reports sometime between the 24th and the 28th of August. So why would I be single? My rights as a member of this Assembly are not any different than any of the other 39 members of this Assembly. And I have a right to be treated fairly and the same as the other members. So I don't understand how it is there can be a motion or a ruling of any sort that singles out my actions, which were exactly the same as the member for Terra Nova.
Well, Premier Dwight Ball repeated today that the investigation into harassment complaints in the House has been flawed. Names of the complainants and the reports themselves were leaked. Now, he said they need to take some of the feedback that they've received to ensure that in the future they get this right. And I asked him today if he takes any responsibility for the way these investigations unfolded.
Was not driven by me as Premier or no other Premier, based on the legislation that is in place, could have dealt with this. Well, if you remember that on April the 24th, that the complaints, the allegations started with questions on the floor of the House of Assembly, which were very public then. So it was only natural that people would say, well, who is it? Who is that person? And if you remember, we had a lot of media and we had a lot of people who were asking questions. Is it you? Is it you? Is it you? It wasn't until the next day that a formal complaint was brought to me as Premier of the province, as leader of the party at the time, and then I was asked to start a formal process. So I started the formal process on the request of the complainant. It was not something that I started on my own.
Well, at this hour, the RCMP says its officers are dealing with some kind of situation in Botwood that has resulted in road access to the local hospital being blocked. Anyone who needs to go to the Dr. Hugh Toomey Health Centre is asked to instead go to the hospital in nearby Grand Falls, Windsor. Now, the police aren't saying just what's happening, other than that is a active public safety incident, to use their words, and access to the community by way Toomey Drive is now restricted. An RCMP emergency response team is on the way to Botwood.
Well, they're gone, but they're certainly not forgotten. The evidence of the Lions Club here in Grand Falls, Windsor is everywhere. And now I'll bring you the story of the group that's trying to get the band back together. That's later on Here and Now.
Well, it could be the last stand for Fish NL. The breakaway union for inshore harvesters says members must start paying dues or it will fold at the end of the month. Here now, Zach Gowdy has the details.
The leaders of Fish NL marched out to meet the cameras this morning with a message for members. Time is running out.
Let me be absolutely clear. If a minimum of 500 harvesters do not voluntarily come aboard to pay membership dues of $24 a month, then Fish NL will not continue. Fish NL will fold.
The often bitter battle to create a new union began in 2016. Up until now, it's been funded through donations. But last month, Fish NL was dealt a major blow when the province's Labor Relations Board dismissed its application for union certification. To keep going, Cleary says members need to put their money where their mouth is.
We can't do it again on a wing and a prayer. We are a union. We get by on union dues. So the same as any other union, with the exception of the FFAW, of course.
The union that currently represents fish harvesters says the splinter group has been a distraction and caused problems in an already troubled industry. It says it will work with members who signed up for the new union to address their concerns.
You know, for too long, Ryan Cleary and Fish NL have tried to divide harvesters and tried to really diminish the role of harvesters in this province. So we need everyone working together.
As for Cleary, he seems dismayed to find the rebellion he leads facing its last stand.
Does it mean that the fight is gone out of Newfoundlanders? Is the fight gone out of Newfoundlanders? There's right and the wrong, and what's been happening is wrong. I don't know the answer to the question. Not gone out of me.
Zach Gowdy.
All right. Nice fall day here on the Northeast Avalon, but a very windy situation on the West Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw tractor trailers flipped over. It's always a bad sign for the rec house.
Yeah, some reports on Twitter. That's what we saw earlier. Actually, just about an hour ago, those winds have significantly picked up, and it's thanks to a system that's currently sitting over parts of the maritime provinces. So we can kind of see where that low is situated right now. And with these temperatures as well, that's what's headed towards Newfoundland as we head through the day tomorrow. Temperatures right now sitting at 8 degrees in Rec House, 6 in St. John's. If we take a look at that top wind gust recorded about an hour ago, as I just mentioned, 141 kilometers per hour in the Rec House area. We have a number of warnings in place along the coast, some rainfall warnings as well, and then snowfall warnings for parts of Labrador. I'll have all those details coming up in a little bit.
Estaldi workers who were sent home from the Muskrat Falls site are now wondering what comes next. 500 workers were ordered to stop work last week, and 50 of those workers are Innu. Here Now's Jacob Barker met with one worker in Sheheshi.
Herman Montague is wondering what comes next.
In my opinion, I look at it that I'm unemployed. Nobody's talking to us. All we're getting is pack up and go home.
Montague was at the beginning of a 14-day rotation when the news came down.
Right now I'm home and waiting for something, but something good or something bad. We don't know what it is.
Because of an agreement between Nalcor and the Innu Nation, qualified Innu workers get preference when it comes to hiring. Initially, it was said that they would remain on site, but it seems the 50 Innu workers are in the same boat as everyone else.
I find it really deplorable how this decision was made by Nalcor to let Estaldi go, and that means to let the Innu workers go too as well. They should have let Estaldi finish off the project. At least we would have the notion and be proud of what the Innu did along with Estaldi and Nalcor.
Nalcor says the remaining 5% of Estaldi's work is not, quote, on the critical path to achieve power on schedule. For now, Montague is still an Estaldi employee, leaving him to wonder how he'll provide for his family.
It's stressful. I got kids to feed, bills to pay. It's really tough not knowing what's going to happen right now.
Nalcor has met with the Innu Nation and says it's still deciding how to get the rest of the work done, and there are 3 possible ways it could go. Nalcor lets Estaldi complete the work, a current company on site completes the work, or a new company would be brought in. The Innu Nation says it has assurances that their agreement with Nalcor is protected and will be upheld no matter who completes Estaldi's work. But in the meantime, Montague can't apply for EI and wonders whether he should begin the search for a new job.
There's going to be pinching pennies now to make days go by or waiting for the next check to come in, Really bad for us Innu and other non-Innu who work in there who really relied on job security and stuff like that.
Estaldi told us late today that they blame Nalcor for putting workers in limbo and said that because of Nalcor's stop work order, Estaldi is, quote, legally required to commence layoffs on Friday. They called on Nalcor to let them back into the site to finish the job. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
We have more details tonight on the carbon tax the provincial government announced and how it will affect big industries like the offshore oil and gas sector. Next year, those emitters will have to reduce their emissions by 6%. By 2022, those companies will need to reduce their greenhouse gas output by 12%. Companies that don't make reductions will have to pay into a fund or buy credits from other companies. Overall, the government expects to make about $50 million a year off the carbon tax, but it's also dropping the existing gas tax, so in the end, there actually won't be a lot of extra revenue. And as we said for last night, for consumers, there will be changes at the pumps. The 4-cent a litre gas tax is removed, but replaced with a 4.42-cent carbon tax. And diesel, well, it's going to lose 5 cents a litre and replaced with a 5.37-cent tax. At least one expert at Memorial University says those taxes aren't going to be enough to change consumer habits, and the plan in this province is not as aggressive as the one in British Columbia.
If you actually price something at its real cost, then that'll change. So if you made If you make anything expensive, then people will say, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing that, or maybe I'll change my behavior to reduce the cost.
Well, the Bank of Canada has raised interest rates once again, and Bank Governor Stephen Poloz says there could be similar increases to come.
We're still being quite stimulative at a time when the economy really does not seem to need it, except for, as was just mentioned, perhaps there are some lingering adjustment processes ongoing.
Now, the bank delivered a quarter-point increase, its fifth since the summer of 2017, and that pushed the benchmark interest rate to 1.75%, and that's higher than it's been in about a decade. It's also likely to push up the cost of borrowing for Canadians. This is the first policy decision from the bank since Canada agreed to a new trade deal with the United States and Mexico.
And speaking of the U.S. authorities are on alert tonight after suspected explosives were sent to some high-profile targets. That includes Hillary Clinton, former U.S. President Barack Obama, CNN, and the governor of New York State.
What we saw here today was an effort to terrorize. This clearly is an act of terror, attempting to undermine our free press and leaders of this country through acts of violence.
Now, there were no explosions and no reports of injuries. On Monday, an explosive device was found at the compound of liberal billionaire George Soros, who's a major contributor to the U.S. Democratic Party.
Well, back to this province now. In St. John's, if you've got kids enrolled in recreational programs with the city, you can expect to pay more starting next year. Recreational fees for activities like day camps, after-school programs, and swimming lessons, well, they're all going up next year. Council passed a motion to support the recommended fee increases at a meeting today. Now, the city says the changes will add an extra $116,000 to its 2019 budget. But Councillor Jamie Korab says there will still be programs in place to keep the services affordable for lower-income families.
An empty building in the heart of downtown St. John's may soon get a new life. A company wants to turn what used to be the Templeton's hardware store into a distillery, restaurant, and bar. Today, St. John's City Councillors voted in favor of changes that will make it easier to make spirits and beer downtown. Wooden Walls Distilling has big plans for the building that faces Harbour Drive.
We'll start with what they call white spirits, which would include vodkas, gins, products that don't need to be aged in oak. Other products such as whiskey and rum will take time. You can't release those right away. But our goal is to actually create some core products that we can release in somewhat larger volumes, but then also create some smaller pieces that we can engage with local farmers, foragers, other small businesses to kind of partner with them on getting the raw materials locally and creating some really unique products.
Yeah, there's another one. It's not me, it's not Ashley, it's not Peter. Nonetheless, very happy for Marystown newest millionaires. Stay tuned. Well, the latest details for you now about that situation unfolding in Botwood. Police confirm that a man has barricaded himself inside his home and he is believed to have a firearm. The RCMP is on the scene and they have closed the road to the local hospital.
Well, let's take a look at Newfoundland and Labrador's newest millionaire who's packing his bags.
Yeah, and the reason that this character is packing his bags is because he knows what his next purchase is. He's taking a trip to Disneyland.
Yep, that's 33-year-old Bram Whittle of Grand Bank. He's $1 million richer today. He spent all weekend searching for his missing lottery ticket.
Lucky man. Yeah, Grand Bank. It's more like 10 times 100 Grand Bank. And when he found that under the seat of his car, he told everyone that he was pretty pumped and ready. He's already bought a new SUV and a truck, because you want to have both.
Yes.
And he's got plans to buy a house. But first, and here's the sweet part, he's taking his 2 children to Disneyland.
Yeah, and with all that shopping list, $1 million doesn't go all that far. So
been a big fall though for lottery winners in this province, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In the past 7 weeks, 11 prizes of $500,000 or more have been handed out. So good luck. May the odds be in your favor.
Okay.
Another update is brought to you by Harvey's Home Heating. Complete furnace replacement if yours cannot be repaired. That's furnace freedom. Visit harveyshomeheating.ca for more.
Yeah, may the odds forever be in your favor is a Hunger Games reference, and it doesn't end with $1 million in my hands, unfortunately. You people who know the series will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't.
No.
Fortunately, it's a little nicer than that out there, although Rec House, yeah, maybe not so much.
Not so much for the southwest coast for sure. Those temperatures, though, if we take a look at them from earlier today, reached a high near 8 degrees here in St. John's. We're seeing same thing for Bonavista, and then headed towards the west coast, those temperatures a little cooler in the single digits, not the minus single digits, up through Lab City. That is the story, though. And if we take a look at the current temperatures, we can see temperatures sitting in the teens around into Nova Scotia. That system is headed towards here, and then we're going to see those temperatures climb as we head into the day tomorrow. So that's definitely good news there. But unfortunately, because of that southeast flow, we are seeing the Rec House warnings in place right now. 141 km/h gust was recorded earlier about an hour ago now. And again, that will continue as we head through the night tonight. That current temperature or current wind gust sitting at 113 km/h. So that Rec House warning still very much in place. We do have warnings along the coast as well. Now we're looking at winds generally between 40 and 60 km/h, but towards the coast, those are closer to 100 km/h, but they will ease under warning criteria as we head through the day tomorrow. So here's a look at the current satellite and radar right now. We can see snow in the higher elevations. That rain has pushed in. Heavier rain expected as we head through the night tonight. So Environment Canada does have those rainfall warnings in place for Port aux Basques all the way through to Burgeo. Looking at amounts somewhere between 50 to 70 millimeters. About 20 to 40 of that will fall through the overnight tonight. So if we take a look at that future tracker, we can see that heaviest rain making its way towards the south coast through the day tomorrow. We're going to see eventually that rain head right across the island, but snow is in the forecast for most of Labrador. It's going to start out as rain for the southern half, change over to snow into the afternoon. And quite significant amounts of snow looks like it's going to fall over a long period of time right into Friday morning for the most part, especially for Lab West. Eastern portions will change over to rain at some point into the afternoon. We'll have more on those details coming up in a little bit. But if we take a look at the forecast into the overnight tonight, we are going to see temperatures sitting in the single digits. I keep saying minus, but into the single digits. 3 degrees for Corner Brook tonight. Fog possible along the south coast and the Avalon as well. Should see a low near 5 degrees tonight for St. John's. 20 to 40 millimeters along the west coast. St. Anthony sitting at 1 degree. Cartwright -1. Happy Valley Goose Bay, same thing. Nain's actually going to see that temperature climb to 1 degree by the time tomorrow morning rolls around, and then continue to climb into the afternoon. We're looking at some long period snowfall expected there as well. Again, I mentioned those snowfall warnings. We'll have all those details, how much snow is going to fall, and a little bit of a look ahead coming up after the break.
Thanks, Ashley. The push is on to restart a Lions Club in Grand Falls, Windsor. That club folded in 2014 after 68 years. Now organizers are betting they'll find enough new blood for a new club. Here now's Garrett Barry is live for us tonight in Grand Falls, Windsor. And the Lions Club has been a big part of that community, Garrett, hasn't it?
It sure has, and you need not look any further than this recreation center that I'm standing outside of tonight. It's under a different banner now, but some 40 years ago, more than 40 years ago, the Windsor Lions Club played an instrumental part in making this swimming pool here actually come to life. They raised a lot of money for it, and I'm told they actually did some of the construction work, members of that Lions Club. Now, members of the new Lions Club that we're hoping, or the people I spoke to today are hoping get off the ground, they have similarly big ambition. But first, they need to get their club underway and find a stable membership.
A young family and a father who still has some time to spare. So he wants to give back.
Lions Club is one of the organizations that I grew up hearing about a lot. And a lot of my friends are part of Lions Club. They work international, they work in India. And we had a recent flood in my province which caused a lot of damages. And so Lions Club is one of the organizations that helped
his colleagues at work.
So there is a stigma that the Lions Club is for old people.
Not exactly on the same page.
As a shift worker, and I work in the hospital, I know where they're coming from. Actually, they probably don't have much time in their hand. If you have 2 kids, you have family, and you're trying to, strike a balance in between work and family, it's really hard for them.
That's one of the challenges for a new club, and one of the reasons the old one fell apart.
I just think it's a lack of membership and things at the time, and interest is some of the members got older and they retired, and some passed away.
As our population gets older,
I think that's the battle for every organization.
What can be done to get these young families involved?
Instead of having to come out and, you have to be here and you have to be there, pick and choose the things that you can do. And that's the way that the Lions Club went after, and I'm sure many organizations, you respect any time that anybody would have. So don't think you have to come and be there all the time. Come and do what you can and be a part of it. And if you can be a part of it more, well, that's great. If you can be a part of it less, that's okay too.
Just an issue here in Newfoundland and Labrador, in central Newfoundland. I spoke to a consultant with the Lions Club group today, and he said there are districts right across Canada, and each district has about 2 clubs close each year. Primarily, he said, due to aging. So what is the Lions Club doing to try to combat that? Well, there are some specialty clubs that they're starting to open around a particular interest, not general, but they're also opening campus clubs on university campuses and college campuses, including one in Newfoundland, multiple in Newfoundland, including one in Memorial University. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Garrett Barry in Grand Falls, Windsor.
Look pretty nice there in Grand Falls, Windsor. Now, as you just heard Garrett in that report, more than 40 years ago, the Pay of the Pool Committee raised enough money to help open that center, and we actually have a picture of that. Let's take a look. Yeah, it wasn't yesterday, was it?
No, I don't think so, Anthony.
No, it's nice. People lined up, though. You can actually see, a swimmer doing a freestyle there, I think. Is that freestyle in your opinion or backstroke?
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, using an arm anyhow.
Old-timey cameras.
Pretty. Yeah, that's right. That's before HD, but obviously you can see quite a few spectators there. So a bit of a tradition, hopefully being kept alive and well in Central.
Eddie Joyce's future is in the hands of his colleagues in the House of Assembly. What does he have to say about the reports and the allegations against him? That's coming up. Welcome back to Here and Now. The fate of Eddie Joyce now rests with the House of Assembly. The commissioner found that he broke the code of conduct when he pushed to have a friend hired into a government job. Well, there's lots to talk about. Eddie Joyce is with me here in the studio. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Last night we had Tracy Perry on the show. She said that the reason she filed a complaint against you was she wanted to improve the way politics is done. Why do you think she filed the complaint?
Well, first of all, 16 of the 17 complaints, all complaints with bullying and harassment has been taken care of. There has been no bullying and harassment. That any allegations that was made against me for bullying and harassment was confirmed today by the commissioner when he met with. There was no bullying and harassment in the House of Assembly. Tracy Perry, in my personal opinion, why she came forward was all politics. It was completely political. And I remember Dale Kirby made the statement there just a while back, is that if you don't get what you want, you can politicize it. In this case here, absolutely 100%, Tracy Perry, even in her letter in the commissioner that she wrote, she said, I never got the answers I needed. Not the right answers. It was about a funding for a district in her town that we wrote 6-7 times. We would have to break all rules. But because she never got it, she went and started trying to say, we'll go behind your back to get this.
But she says in her complaint that it's not just the fact that she wasn't happy with your decision, but it's the way that you treated her. The fact that you slammed down a computer, that you weren't respectful.
Just remember, just because Tracy Perry said it is not true. I have documentation that you just seen that there was 4 witnesses who put statements in, 2 out of the 3, because the commissioner didn't need to see the rest, that said this did not happen. I walked away. Tracy Perry, as I said, followed me. I kept going. Betty Parsley, in her statement and in her interview with the commissioner, stated that Tracy Perry actually was accosting me, hauling my jacket. John Finn, another one, when I was trying to leave the House of Assembly, she followed me leaving. John Finn counted 12 times when I asked Tracy Perry to put the request in writing. So because Tracy Perry said I slammed down the computer, there are 5 witnesses. Some were interviewed and said, this never happened. It just never happened. And 2 days later, as I just read what Tracy Perry said, thank me very much for my consideration and work. 2 days later. When Tracy Perry said I slammed down my computer and that I wouldn't speak to her, it's just not true.
Do you see anything wrong with your behavior?
And in actual fact, when it was done with Tracy Perry, and she sent me notes later, with smiley faces on it. And the reason why is the SEEP funding that she was looking for, making it political, that she couldn't get. She received more funding last year than any year previous by her own documentation that she put in. Tracy Perry alone, I used to give Tracy Perry a heads up when capital works is being announced so she can call the mayors. I went down to her towns when the flood was happening. I sit down with her with capital works, say, what's your priorities in the district? I had never, ever treated Tracy Perry with any disrespect. The only thing Tracy Perry, and I say, quote here, I never got what I needed.
But even if there wasn't intimidation, this sort of behavior that you're talking about, do you think it's okay for politics to operate like this, or do you think this is an opportunity for everyone to reevaluate how things work?
In general, if people feel uncomfortable with the way something is done and said, I have no problem with it whatsoever. People feel, okay, we have to look at this whole issue. But I cannot stand by and let this 6 months of my life, my family, my supporters, to make allegations that are totally false. The commissioner found, and the Commissioner Reuben Thomas found every allegation of bullying and intimidation not true, nothing to it. All documentation is just showed. Okay? And now all of a sudden Bruce Chalk come out and say, oh, by the way, you're right on all that. Well, you didn't bully and intimidate, but I might find you code of conduct for a job that the Public Service Commissioner said something never happened. The Deputy Minister said he was never contacted on it. The person whose job never even got an interview. If anybody who worked in the system, once you don't get an interview, which in January, and this was April, this is almost 3.5, 4 months later saying that there was still an issue, it's absolutely false. It's over in Whitburn, it's over the compost facility where she threatened me to stop the compost facility, where she asked towns to put in letters of she encouraged towns to get involved. And I told her, as a minister, you have to stay out of it.
Have you had a conversation with the Premier about your future?
No, I haven't, no. What I told the Premier is and I was very frank with the Premier, I said I will defend myself, my family. and the supporters, and he will do what he has to do, and I understand that 100%. I haven't discussed but I will tell you what I went through with Sherry Gammon-Walsh, and what I went through with my family. I will never sit in a cabinet or caucus with Sherry Gammon-Walsh, just on principle alone, and just for protection of me and my family. I would never sit in a caucus. And the Premier, I'm not putting any pressure on the Premier, because the Premier makes a decision. But I feel confident that when I get this whole story out, I feel confident that Eddie Joyce will be vindicated, because there's more to this here that I will get out in the House of Assembly. And
so isn't that kind of an ultimatum to him, though? It's either her or me?
No, there's no ultimatum. No, there's absolutely no ultimatum whatsoever. I'm just telling you, this is my personal feelings and my family that I spoke to. I mean, just not an ultimatum. I'm just saying what I'm going to do. The Premier of the province could do what he likes. I will never give the Premier. I respect the position too much, and I respect the office of the Premier too much. It's no ultimatum.
Do you plan to continue as an independent then, if she's not removed? What does the future for Eddie Joyce look like?
My goal, Peter, and it always has been, is the people of the Humber Bay Valence, number one. And it's the Premier. I would never put pressure on the Premier. I would never say that. Dwight Ball's a friend of mine. I would never say it. But I would do myself and the people who supported me a disservice, a complete disservice, if I ever said that you could attack my family, you could attack my friends, and everything's okay. It's not that.
What have you learned through all of this?
I tell you what I learned, Peter, is that when you're kind and being nice to people, there are certain people out there that's going to come and try to undo your kindness. Around the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, I work well. Municipalities, I work very well. The PMA Association, they couldn't wait for me to come back. MNL, phone some of those people that I always said, phone Dwayne Anthony of the Firefighters Association. How I work with people. That's what I miss the most. But what I learned, there are some people that can make allegations that can be very tough on your family. Some allegations that can be very tough on your friends and supporters. But I'm blessed. I got a lot of friends and supporters, and a lot of support in the family.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Politics still the big topic of the day. It's almost as if the House of Assembly is starting 2 weeks earlier than we're supposed to. They're going to be in session for quite a while with all of this harassment findings that they have to deal with. In your interview before the break, Eddie Joyce making it pretty clear it's either him
or Share Gambit
Walsh. Yeah.
And that's going to be a really difficult place for the Premier to be in,
Yeah.
because he's now got to decide, especially because Eddie Joyce and him were fairly tight. West Coast allies, someone that he really liked to have in the caucus and cabinet. So
now another person who, of course, is at the center of a lot of this is Dale Kirby. And Mr. Kirby's conduct and accusations made against him by Pam Parsons, well, that came up in the House of Assembly today. And twice, Speaker Perry Trimper said that the temperature was getting a little too high in the chamber. And one of those issues had to do with a complaint against former Education Minister Dale Kirby. Pam Parsons told Commissioner Bruce Chalk that Kirby made off-color jokes in front of her colleagues about Bay d'Espoir Academy, a school that an arsonist had torched. Now, she says that Kirby joked, the part of the school that did not burn in Tracy Perry's district, we're going to use that as your school replacement. Now, Parsons, who at the time was vying for a school for her district, says that that joke was completely beneath the standards of integrity required by the Code of Conduct. And for his part, Kirby didn't deny the dark humor. In fact, he told the commissioner that his comments were humorous in nature and nothing more than that. And furthermore, that practically every member of caucus was there when he made these jokes. And Kirby went on to explain his motivation. It was mind-numbingly boring in there, the meeting. It was a good opportunity to go over and have a laugh. Now, the Liberals today shouted with anger when Conservative MHA Tracy Perry referred to them all laughing at this burnt school joke. And so I asked Justice Minister Andrew Parsons about that. Why did you and your caucus get so upset when Ms. Perry raised the issue of Dale Kirby joking about a school burning down? I mean, it's in the report. It's been out since Friday.
Because Ms. Perry said that we all laughed at it and that we all joked. And that's not true. And it's factual. It's in the report
But
there.
you heard Mr. Kirby make the joke.
No, I did not. I did not. Is that in the report?
I think Ms. Parsons is suggesting that it was said in front of caucus.
Yeah. I tell you what, if you can get somebody to say that every single person is there, I can tell you what, in my role, there's a lot of meetings that I miss and I'm not there. To make a generalization that people were there, that's why so many people took offense here. You know what? And I take offense to them. That's why a lot of people got heated, because it was wrong, and there should be standing up and having an apology. But coming back to the bigger picture, we have a politicization of a serious issue that's present in a lot of workplaces. And here is probably one of the more difficult ones, just by the nature of the job. So, you know what? It's incumbent on all of us to change what we do.
You don't think Mr. Kirby would make a joke like that?
I'm not commenting on that. But again, that's a question for the individual. That's not, it's different to talk about one individual and then to tarnish everybody with that. Now, I tell you what, it really ticks me off. I don't like be accused of that.
In other news, Canadian astronaut David Saint-Jacques says he's ready for his 6.5-month mission on the International Space Station. He and 2 colleagues were slated to lift off from Earth on December 20th, but that plan stalled when the last Soyuz launch ended in an explosion that sent the 2-man crew hurling towards the Earth in an emergency landing. Neither was hurt. Saint-Jacques says his faith has not been shaken.
This has made me feel even more confident about the way the Russians have designed the Soyuz spacecraft. It is very, very robust. It is very robust. Of course, space is hard, and things will fail. But it was very reassuring to see that even with such a, badly timed problem at a bad spot, even then, the crew were completely safe. The search and rescue operations were swift and efficient, and they were reunited with their families within hours.
Saint-Jacques says one of the causes of the explosion is reviewed. His mission could even launch earlier than the December 20th date.
on, Chrissy, we're going to be late. The bell's about to ring.
I told you we didn't have time for your French vanilla.
Signing off for the O'Donnell Morning Show, my name is Jonathan Hunt.
And I'm Michael Chislett.
Hey guys, sorry we're late. We're
very late.
Oh, we were trying to figure out what to do about this promo.
Do you mean that the St. John's Morning Show will be broadcasting here live at O'Donnell?
Friday morning from 7 to 9 a.m.?
Yeah, that's pretty well it. You nailed it.
What you guys said. Well, we are done here, guys.
But the principal would like to see you now.
Thanks, Michael.
Bringing home really bad teenage memories for Fred Hutton. That's probably the 50th one of those that he's received over the course of his lifetime. Poor guy. Off to Mount Pearl. Good to see the St. John's Morning Show. That'd be a great place to have a show.
Yeah, now before we get to the weather, we've got a video to share taken earlier today in Springdale.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Is there 3 of them?
Wow. That's so amazing. This was taken around lunchtime today. Joey Pelly was on his way home for lunch when this family crossed the road in front of him. Sounds like his dog wasn't a fan, as you mentioned, yeah.
And of course it's in town, so you can't pull out your gun and...
Well, no, not legally. No, that's true. And who would want to, Peter?
No, don't do that.
Off they go.
They're so tasty.
Off they go. You have a point.
Well, that's true, yeah. You're not wrong about that one.
So, is it good hunting weather? I guess that's the question.
Well, temperatures tomorrow certainly will be. We're going to see highs, it looks like, in the teens by the time the afternoon rolls around for some areas. 13 degrees for Gander, 12 Grand Falls, Windsor. It does look gray, though, through the afternoon. We're looking at that chance of showers as well along the most of the island. And then temperatures tomorrow afternoon, as you can see, up through parts of Labrador, sitting in the single digits on the plus side of the mercury tomorrow. So all that snow that will fall overnight tonight, or towards the early morning hours rather, should change over to rain for Happy Valley Goose Bay. Same for Cartwright, reaching a high near 6 degrees. And then towards Lab City, still holding on to those cooler temperatures, about -2. If we take a look at how much snow is going to fall over the next 24 to 36 hours, it's quite significant amount, which means Environment Canada has issued that snowfall warning for Churchill Falls and Churchill Valley. Upwards of 15, even 25 centimeters of snow is possible. So if we time that out, overnight tonight, we're going to see that snow move in. Again, it's going to change over to rain at some point tomorrow in the early half of the day for along the coast, and then towards Happy Valley Goose Bay. You can see all of that rain pushing through. No significant amounts, really, just somewhere between 2 to 5 millimeters is possible. Could see higher amounts in parts of central, between 10 to 15 millimeters. And then in behind that, it will clear out quite quickly, or rather the rain will clear out quite quickly. It does look like things will stay cloudy. And then into Friday, we're going to see that onshore flow again, things changing over, cooler temperatures as well, things changing over to potentially some snow, definitely in the higher elevations. That's not out of the question. And then showers possible again for the Avalon into Friday, and then continuing through the night. And then into Saturday, it does look like things will generally clear out as a ridge of high pressure moves in, so that's definitely good news there. So if we time out just how much snow is going to fall through the night tonight, pretty light snow, maybe a trace to 5 centimeters. Most of that heavy snow for Churchill Falls and the valley will fall into the afternoon. A good 10, maybe even 15 centimeters will fall in that short amount of time. And then it will continue to fall into the afternoon, bringing those accumulations, as I mentioned, between 10 to 25 centimeters. And we're going to see that for Nain as well. So here's a look at the quickly 5-day forecast. We can see things. Saturday looks like an absolutely gorgeous day, 7 degrees. Then a warm-up comes in on Sunday for St. John's and Easton. It looks like the same thing for western Newfoundland. On Sunday, a nor'easter looks like it's going to make its way in, so we could see a wintry mix. And that's the case as that spreads a little bit further north as well through central. Temperatures are going to drop back down. And then into Labrador, we're looking at northwest winds on Friday, breezy on Saturday, and then clearing into Sunday. And we're going to see that same thing for eastern Labrador, but probably clearing out Saturday night. So that's a look at the extended forecast. We will look at your weather photo coming up in a little bit.
Thanks, Ashley. Callum Jackson has made a career out of ragtime music. The musician often plays his brand of feel-good tunes across Fredericton. But in addition to strumming, Jackson is also carving out a unique sideline in a business that might surprise you. The CBC's Angela Basse visited Jackson to find out more. And no, this Story was not filmed in the 1930s. Have a look.
You might be used to seeing Callum Jackson busking on a street corner or playing in local venues. But you may not know the talented musician is also a skilled craftsman. The 24-year-old spends his downtime carving pipes from wood found around the city.
I realized how beautiful just any old piece of wood can be. If you give it time and attention, you can create something really pretty.
The process can take him anywhere from 2 to 16 hours.
It's not the most exciting process. It's a lot of tedious work, and it's physically tolling. The beginning is fun, and the ending is fun, and then everything else in the middle is just kind of, I gotta get over with this and, you know, polish it up and stuff. It's a lot of just repetitive sanding. There's just so much sanding.
The design is inspired by the wood itself.
Each branch kind of suggests where it could be a pipe, and you're kind of just looking for interesting patterns, interesting knots, working around those.
And although the end result may not be flawless, Jackson considers it just part of the charm.
Well, I think the real draw for these pipes is the imperfections in the wood. I don't use perfect pieces of wood. It's not going to be a perfect pipe.
And what prompted his penchant for pipes? You might call it a pipe dream.
When I started doing this, it was a bit of wanting to make something, wanting to have something that is going to, you know, outlive me.
Angela Basse, CBC News, Fredericton.
Look at this beautiful shot
Wow,
of
that's
the
gorgeous.
moonrise yesterday. We mentioned that on the show yesterday, and I'm so glad we got a photo of it. I'll tell you where this was, on the Avalon somewhere.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Starting to get a
no.
little hairy there,
Get me off
Anthony.
the set quick.
We'll have this coming up after the break.
Look at that shot.
Stunning.
Near St. John's? In St. John's? Around?
Nope. A
No?
little bit further south.
Okay, I was going to say White Hills, Kitty Vitty, but...
No, in
There's lots of pine trees, to be fair. It's kind of hard
true.
to place.
That is kind of true. It's Admiral's Cove.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, a beautiful moonrise there. I just love looking at the moon, especially when it's clear skies. And then right in that rise, it just looks beautiful.
Thank you, Michael. That's a great shot.
Yeah, if you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Well, going to go enjoy a view of the moon myself right now. We'll see you tomorrow.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.